Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I hope you are having a brilliant day, and now I aim to make it better. Today, in my Game Week 5 team selection, it's going to be done slightly differently. Not only am I going to be showcasing my transfers, but I will also be showcasing the potential routes I have and all my future transfer plans with this strategy in mind, especially because I'm not on Wildcard 6. Now, for the clones of my team, for those who have copied me, this should be very, very useful. One of the reasons I included it, but it should also give some potential ideas to those who aren't thinking about certain assets that I am down the line. And that's really why I made this video, because I do think that it could help a lot of you with your planning down the line. And then in terms of the questions that I used to answer, I'm going to have a whole video dedicated to it for tomorrow's viewing, just so you get a bit more content and a bit more clarity and depth. As you can see, we've got off to a wonderful start on 303 points, around 150k, and that too without a chip being used. I think had I done so, I'd be around 20k, which would be a flying start. If you could consider subscribing, about 70% of you who watch regularly aren't subscribed. I would really, really appreciate if you hit that button as we approach 3,000 subscribers. And if we could get this video to 200 likes, that would also be magnificent. Thank you so much. And let's get into it. Starting with the shortest section by far, we have Sels Supremacy. Obviously, following his 9-pointer, I'm absolutely delighted with him, and he will be going nowhere for the foreseeable future. For those on a wild card in Game Week 6, I would really consider it now. Now that you've seen that Forest, when they go away to sides, it's going to be very difficult to beat, right? Compact, low block, 4-4-2, which is, in my opinion, the best off-the-ball structure. It varies given the subtleties each game, but overall, in general, I would say that is the best structure, and it is the one Nuno's employing. He's been willing to drop his wingers in place of centre mids who play in those wide areas, to help with the dueling capacity, to help with the amount of running and just those intensity of runs as well, guarding the pockets when the opposition gets into pockets as well. It helps to block passing lanes, I think, because you can recover quicker. They have a better understanding of the defensive side of the game, etc., right? So I do think that you've got a very good coach there, and you've got a pretty talented squad as well. So if you are on Wildcard 6, it's definitely something I would be considering. I'm quite bullish going away to Brighton. I think they are someone who creates a lot of chances, don't necessarily, however, have maybe the best finishing, and maybe Sels can rack up a lot of saves from low to mid-level XG shots. So I'm looking forward to the prospect this week of potentially getting another haul. Now, my defense is certainly open to interpretation. I think a lot of people would say it's slightly suboptimal, if not very suboptimal this week. However, I am actually quietly confident on it. Gabriel, you could argue, has the worst fixture on the calendar that you could possibly have in world football. Manchester City away with a firing Erling Haaland and a fit Kevin De Bruyne in a good system. Wow. But Arteta's going to go there, and he's going to set up in a very robust, compact block. We obviously spoke at length yesterday about Arsenal's defensive prospects, Saliba and Gabriel, their physical attributes, Raya in goal, etc., right? And you would have seen it showcased at Spurs. So with that in mind, and with the fact they didn't concede a goal against City last year, so they'll definitely have some confidence in that sense. And given the fact that he is the best header of the ball in the opposition box, well, all of a sudden, I think, okay, maybe I could get a clean sheet. And maybe I can get an attacking return, because he can get one in any game against any team. And for those reasons, I'm actually quite comfortable playing him. Even I would actually be a little bit scared to bench him, never mind play him. So I'm quite happy with him. Look, Robinson, do I expect them to keep a clean sheet? No. If Isak's out, okay, maybe the probability increases. I just think they're a significantly better side with Tonali in it. But he's at home, and Fulham have looked pretty decent at home from a defensive standpoint. He's obviously got the attacking upside as well. So at 4.5, he's fine. And then Konsa, the fixture's okay. I mean, I still rate Wolves' attack mainly because of Matthias Cunha. I think he's such a good player. However, I still also think that Konsa's threat in the box is significantly underrated. But they're a good set-piece team. They've come up with some very innovative solutions, creative solutions. He genuinely has good presence in the box, good movement, and just a good awareness and intuition of where to be and when to be there. So I do think that he eventually is going to get an attacking return for me. You could call it a bold prediction if you like, but I'm certainly higher up on his attacking prospects than others are in the box. So overall, I think the defense is actually fine this week. The main issue is that other people will have Trent and Robbo, right? Bournemouth going there with their high press, they're capable of scoring a goal. So when I look at that, they're definitely capable of scoring a goal. Do I think they're going to win? Absolutely not. I think Liverpool put 3 or 4 past them. Minimum 2, but I'm going to go 3 or 4. I think Liverpool look really sharp in attack. Discount the Forest fixture for a second. So that's the only real downside, I think, to this week. And Pedro Porro as well, all of whom have high ceilings. But Spurs have looked a bit shaky at the back for a while. Brentford looked good. Bournemouth looked good. So I'm hoping that at least one of them, if not both, manages to score. And thus my team will end up doing pretty well. Because that's probably what you would say the weak point is of my team. But if the defense can hold out or maybe do very well, then when you see the attack and the midfield, you'll realize there's a lot of attacking prospects here. Now, you may have been expecting to see the midfield. However, that's not going to happen just yet. Instead, as promised, I'm going to take a deeper dive into my transfer plans and what the future looks like. On the left, you have one set of combinations and moves, and on the right, you have the other. So these are the two moves that I'm considering this week. I am 99% likely to be selling Alexander Isak or Dominic Calvert-Lewin, regardless of what else I do or what happens down the line. Now, why am I doing that? Well, I haven't been overly impressed with Newcastle, and even though I expect them to be better with Tonali coming back into the side, at 8.4 million, with the fixtures that Isak has, I'm just not comfortable having that amount of money tied into him in the current moment, right? Given the fact that I don't think he's hitting his ceiling quite as often or likely to hit his ceiling quite as often as I would like. However, I watched Dominic Calvert-Lewin against Bournemouth and I see him getting into some really good positions. Then I watch him against a good Villa side who really embody modern football, I would say, in so many ways. Not just the philosophy, but the players, their club in general. They really do embody modern football. And I think we're getting a lot more of that in the Premier League, as I've spoken about a lot. And I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin did a brilliant job of really teaching him a lesson. I mean, to deal with him physically was very difficult. And there aren't too many centre-back pairings that are overly dominant in the league outside of the maybe top three teams. And thus, I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin could do really well in that prolonged sea of green that you see on the official FDR. So with that in mind, and the fact he's 5'9", the fact he's 90 minutes, the fact he's on penalties, the fact that so many of the fundamentals are nailed down, and Everton look fine going forward. The issue is not going forward. They've scored goals. It's more so going the other way. So with that in mind, I'm more than happy to bring Dominic Calvert-Lewin in. I think he could be super consistent, and he, of course, frees funds. Now, there are two routes I could take. I could not take a hit, and in which case I would captain Eberechi Eze. Then in game week 6, I would move Smith Rowe to Mbeumo because he's going to play Sels and the run gets significantly harder from there for the next 3 weeks. And then in game week 7, I will get Josko Gvardiol. Now, if you're surprised at me getting Gvardiol, I encourage you to go and watch the game week preview from yesterday. I will link it in the description. Make sure to have a watch of that. It provides a very different set of analysis on Josko Gvardiol and why I think from game week 7 he could be absolutely brilliant. That would be the route. No hit, and I would get Brian Mbeumo in 6. I would captain Eberechi Eze in 5, like I said, and in general, the team would look fairly template. However, I really do see a lot of upside in the Salah captaincy this week, and as much as I'm fairly comfortable captaining Eze, it's the going without Salah that I don't like, because I think he could do so well. In which case, I would sell Emil Smith-Rowe for Mohamed Salah, because I know that sounds crazy, but I'll have, I think, 7.1 million in the bank after I sell Isak, maybe even a bit more, and I will be able to make this move. Yes, it would require a hit, but I will be captaining Salah. I will also hold him in game week 6 and roll the transfer when a lot of people will be wildcarding out of him. Wolves away. What a fantastic differential to have Mohamed Salah, right? And even in game week 7, Palace away, who look really poor defensively, I will have him as a differential. I will then take Eze and Konsa out because I'm so bullish on Gvardiol from 7 and get Dwight McNeil. Pair him with Dominic Calvert-Lewin for the prolonged sea of green that I spoke about and try and maximize my upside. The strategy on the left is so high upside. He offers me Salah captain this week. Salah is a differential for the 2 after and lets me capture the upside of Everton should they perform. And it gives me Gvardiol as a differential, right? Brilliant. Whereas the one on the right, yeah, sure, it goes in Mbeumo. I don't think Mbeumo is essential. I think he'll be brilliant, right, as an option. I think he could do really, really well. But they've lost Visser. They already don't have Tony. How does he perform without them? That's an unknown that I would like to at least see before I make a decision on. And I won't have the time, right, because I need to decide before the Game Week 5 deadline if I'm going to get Mbeumo, right? I don't have that type of flexibility. And do I really need to take the huge risk with Eberechi Eze? You know what? Honestly, the risk I'm fine with. It's just not owning Salah in isolation. Forget the risk. Forget the effective ownership. I just think he's going to do so well. Should have had a brace against Milan. Look razor sharp. If Bournemouth are going to go there and press high, the conditions will be there for him to exploit. And I'm really bullish on Salah this week and for the next 2 after that. You may have an inkling as to who I'm going for. And not just who I'm going for, but which strategy. However, when we get to the midfield section, there is something very important for you to know about when it comes to Emil Smith-Rowe. So, as you can see, I've gone for Mohamed Salah and that option. I've obviously spoken a lot about him and his upside, not just today, but mainly yesterday. However, there is a very niche piece of analysis I would like to speak about when it comes to Emil Smith. Let's look at the 4 games he's had so far. What are the 2 he's returned in? West Ham and Leicester. He's also had a decent volume of chances in both of those to return. What are the 2 games he's blanked in? Ipswich away and Man United away. Both of which he didn't have too much. Now, what do Ipswich and Man United have in common compared to Leicester and West Ham? Leicester and West Ham do not provide teams, and specifically midfields with huge engines and mass physicality. Whereas United, with their style of play in the first game, not only did they have a lot of the ball, but they had some decent athletes, right? Like, at least in the first 60 minutes of the game, you're going to get very intense Casemiro. Even if he's not able to transition over huge length, he's still a very good jeweler in small spaces, I think. You've obviously got Kobe Mainoo, who's fine in the first 60. You have Mount and Bruno up top, so that's a lot of pressing quality and just engines in there. And then you've got a pretty aggressive backline. You've got a fairly robust side, not most robust side, but they also had a lot of the ball, so Fulham had to transition large distances. Again, relies on Emil Smith-Rowe competing at a really high physical level. You also have Ipswich on a small pitch who saw against Liverpool in the first half can physically dominate sides to an extent, make it very difficult for them when they go to Ipswich. And again, Emil Smith-Rowe didn't have too much in that. And Newcastle are a similar breed of side, right? They have a lot of running power. They've got a lot of athletes, and the midfield has some serious engines on them. So I do wonder, could he maybe struggle a little bit in this game? And the games after, Forest, same. City are just City. So with that in mind, I'm actually I'm okay with relinquishing him. So I'm not over the moon about it because I do really like him as an asset. I think he could return in Newcastle simply for the positions he picks up and the quality he has. But with the physical aspects in mind and the fact that the volume of chances aren't too high, that niche piece of analysis is why I'm a little more comfortable selling. I mean, Saka, I'm not going to not play my £10 million asset, right? There's no reason he can't return. I honestly have this slight gut feeling Arsenal win. I think they might win 2-0. That's my gut feeling currently, and therefore having Saka makes a lot of sense. I'm not going to bench him anyway. He's not getting sold anyway. Not really much to talk about there. As I obviously spoke about a lot in my preview, so if you would like to go and check that out again, please do. I would recommend it for a variety of topics. And then Morgan Rogers, I will touch on. Don't lose faith in him. He's getting in all the right positions. And at 5 million, it's fine. If we're getting 90 minutes every game with a good fixture run, in good positions, in a good team, right, returns will come. They will come. And I guess it's a matter of, for me, when, not if. And with that in mind, he's such a fantastic enabler, especially when he's so highly owned. It's really not the biggest deal if he blanks anyway, because there's not many options at that price point that are doing particularly well. And he facilitates so much. So I would just say, let him ride, have some confidence in the guy, and I'm sure he'll come good. Completing the side, we have the three forwards. I obviously spoke about yesterday how bullish I am on the 3-4-3 as the best formation in the game currently. Haaland, why would you bench him? I don't think his prospects are great. I'm genuinely quite bullish on Arsenal, and particularly their defense, making it pretty difficult. He is, however, Haaland. I wouldn't captain him for the reasons I mentioned in my preview. However, I'm not going to bench him, right? Similar with Havertz, why would I bench him? Especially look at my bench. There's only 2 out of the 4 there. One's Harry Winks and one's a rotation-prone Lewis Hall. So it makes literally no sense for me to bench either of them. And there's no disrespect to Harry Winks as a player. It's mainly just his position, nothing else. And then Dominic Calvert-Lewin is here as a new addition. I'm really looking forward to owning him. I watched the extended highlights of Palace Leicester. You saw how many times Mateta got on beyond the last line or just found space in those central areas. He looked dangerous, and I'm hoping Calvert-Lewin could do the same because they both have huge physical qualities. Maybe not the same ones, but they certainly have huge physical qualities. My gut tells me Havertz scores, or at least gets a return. That's what I'm thinking. So if you are thinking of benching him, or selling him, or doing something with him, or maybe buying him this week instead of next week, my gut tells me that he scores, and that's about it for today. As always, I'm genuinely so grateful for your support, and it's really picking up now. For example, I look at the analytics for the video yesterday, and I'm absolutely delighted with them. So thank you so much. If you could consider subscribing as we get to 3,000, that would be magnificent. I'm actually going to do a video tomorrow, which I don't usually do, as I mentioned in the introduction. So I shall see you for that. Until then, make sure to make it a great day, and I shall see you very soon. Goodbye.